Welcome to Objections with Stan Willis. I'm Michael Morris with C. Stanley Willis, the second and third, fourth, any other generation. There are no additionals. There will be no third, fourth, and fifth.
My son's a third.
Yeah, but he's not going to be here today because we're going to use that designation just for you. I'm not going to rename. I'm not going to start over.
I don't think Trey's coming today.
All right.
I think he is. I think he's in school.
You just called him a different name.
Call him Trey.
What do you? Yes, when you see him. So if I see him, what am I supposed to call him?
I'd call him Trey.
See? So if he's ever on this show, he will just be Trey. I'm not going to refer to him in the third, fourth, or fifth person.
Can you do that?
Can I do that?
What is
I'm an American citizen, sir. I can do whatever I want. I have my own freedoms.
What exactly is the fourth person?
That's when you have like the letter and then at the top, and then you do it times 4. Like 4 to the fourth power is 8. Look, you weren't even sure if that was right. I do want to talk numbers today, though. I want to talk about the Supreme Court ruling down the mandate and your thoughts on that from this aspect, because I don't really care about how they ruled or why they ruled a certain way. It is what has spun out of that. Your initial reaction when you saw they went against the mandate. Can I guess? I guess what you said? Did you say America?
America. I did not say that because that sounds like George Bush. What a hick. Anyway.
He was a hero of 9/11.
He was a hero, I guess. Yeah. I thought I was surprised.
You were surprised it went against Jimmy Biden?
No. I was surprised that they didn't actually go further in the ruling. They kind of stopped partway on the whole thing and left things open. I think what's going to happen since they did do that, I was kind of surprised that they left the OSHA rule stand.
That part I thought was a real kick in the nads to those. Remember the healthcare workers? Well, we're all in it together, except you assholes.
Well, and they used the fact that it was federal funding, so there's a different standard there as compared to the legislation that they can. What they're saying is that we can put strings on the funding, so we can say if you don't do this, we're going to take away your funding. I was kind of surprised that they ruled that way because I don't think that I don't think that the reasoning that they used on the greater part of the mandates is really any different than the reasoning for the OSHA regulation. I mean, they're essentially saying you can't do that this way, but you can do it this way. Makes sense. Right. So they're putting.
I felt like they were playing both sides. Like,
exactly.
We're here for freedom, sorta.
It's kind of they're putting form over function.
Yeah.
So they're saying, you can't mandate that everybody follow this rule, but you can say to everybody who gets federal funding, you have to follow this rule, or we're not going to give you the funding. Which just kind of allows a backhand way to do all that. And if you're Joe Biden and you want to double down on this, now you're going to make all the state funding that goes out there. You're going to say, well, we're not going to give you state funding if you don't make this mandate. I mean, they can do that now. I mean, essentially all they've done is say, this is how you have to do that.
Right. Well, they laid the groundwork for you to go, hey, here's your workaround.
Even if they don't do that, my expectation would be that you're going to see California, New York, maybe some other states go ahead and do a mandate, and then there will be another lawsuit and another Supreme Court ruling about whether or not that's okay.
It just seems like it's endless because there's always a workaround or a loop, and it's like, well, yes, in this case, but if and it's. Right. I think for the regular Joe who works in a coffee shop or something like that, it saved you from having to be part of this thing. Except we talked about this a little bit on the previous show. Boston went into like a full lockdown type of mode. So you have to have proof of both vaccinations and the booster and your ID. So you don't need it to vote in New York City, but you need it to go in to get yourself a bagel.
You don't even have to be a citizen to vote in New York City now.
You know, there's 800,000 people that were added to the roster in New York. Do you know that you don't even have to be a citizen? You can cast a vote. Let's say that I'm in New York and I'm like, hey, I would really like to vote, but I live in Tuscany.
Right.
Don't worry about it. Just go ahead and vote. Don't even sign it. Just put it in here.
I thought the actual rule was you had to have been there for 30 days.
Yes, but my point being, I could visit you for 30 days, and I am going to.
I doubt it.
Don't fight me on this. So I could be there.
There is
visiting.
a dumpster in my neighborhood. You could probably live there.
Is it a frog hauling dumpster? Free shout out to frog hauling. Get yourself a dumpster, or put your wife in it. So when you are from another country and you can cast a vote, why wouldn't I just come here in October? Bring all my friends and family. We're going to vote, and then we're out of here after that.
Exactly. That it's just that whole. There's no logic. There's no reasoning. It's some of these things that they're saying completely are unreasonable and self-contradictory. I mean, and you think about some of the stuff that they're saying. Like one of the arguments that you will hear is that people who live in poor neighborhoods can't get ID.
Right.
That's just so much BS. First of all, these people are poor, not stupid.
Right.
They're not stupid.
You can get a library card for free.
They know how to do this. Right. I mean, they drive cars. Some people. I mean, being poor does not make you stupid. But what we're saying is, these poor people are too damn stupid to have an ID, but they still need to vote. Well, but that's just stupid. It's not even true.
We'll take it one step further.
It's not even real.
Let's say it is true. You're completely uneducated. Your mind is probably filled with putty. We want to know who you want to vote for, but you only get two choices. That is literally the dumbest thing ever. I want that person to vote only if they vote my way. And I think when you're talking about the voter ID laws and the, I find it very disrespectful when you on Martin Luther King Day, you have Dr. King's family there, and they're talking about suppressing the vote, people being suppressed. I've yet to find people who have been suppressed. I'm sure it's happened. But what they're asking for, Biden came out a couple weeks ago and said, it's not, he came right out from the chambers. So he knows he's already lost. He finds out he's lost his case. He's not going to get it. And he says, it's not about who's voting, it's who's counting the votes. And I thought, why do you keep badgering on about that? So I took a look. In Wisconsin, you know about the lockbox, right? Yeah. So when people were seeing, you can't find this footage now, they were seeing trunks of votes being brought in because these lock boxes didn't need ID or anything else. So you could just have a box of votes just on the side of the street, and that's what we're going to count. All of those were left under these tables, especially in Michigan. So that's when they started putting things on the windows so that you couldn't see them doing the count because they were steamer trunks full of votes. So if this voting right deal is every vote counts and then who's looking at them. And that's the other piece is who gets to look at them. Right. Because if I can drop off 200,000 votes over there in Prairie Town, I might have a shot to win, and you do that in every single city. It's disingenuous the way that this is being presented.
Well, no, I agree. I don't think. I mean, honestly, if there are poor people who can't get an ID, let's get them IDs.
It's not that hard.
If the problem is that these folks can't afford it or don't know what to do, then let's find a way to educate them, and let's find a way to get them IDs.
You can walk into.
It's not that. It's not. It. I mean, we've got a way to get people money. People have an EBT card.
Right.
We found a way to get people cell phones. Right? We found a way to get people all of this stuff that we think that people need. If they need an ID, let's find a way to get them an ID. I want everyone to
Don't you think it's weird that we don't do that? We don't say, let's take you over here to CVS and get it done or whatever. It is, we have to pass a law. Nothing says I don't care about people more than we need to pass a law to protect these people. What people?
Right.
How do you even know if they don't have an idea who these people are?
And you know, if this is actually a problem, then let's fix that problem. But to say that you don't have to have any ID at all to be able to vote is silly.
Right.
I mean, you have to have a driver's license to drive a car, for goodness sake. I mean, you can't get into a Phil Collins concert without an ID. No. You can't go see a Blue Jackets game without an ID.
Don't you find that to be a slap in the face, though, that you have an ID? Let's say it's not a... I bet you have 3 different forms of ID that would say who you are.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I think most people do. I don't think that this is really a problem. I think it's disingenuous on the part of the people who are saying that to say that this is a problem, because I don't think that it is a problem. If, however, it is a problem... then the problem that needs to be fixed is how do we get these people?
You're talking about a $5 item. I could fix this for $5.
Yeah.
So take tax money that you're raising and solve that problem. Right. They do not care about the individual, because once I make you an individual, I have to care about you.
Right. So the point of this is the point of all this is to it's about getting control and about something other than taking care of people and making sure that everybody has a voice. Because I personally think that you live in the United States, you should have a voice, whether you're poor or wealthy or regardless of your race or your religion. You should have a voice if you live here. I agree.
Not if you're that Tom Cruise religion.
Scientology, yeah.
You shouldn't. No. Stop. If you're doing that, stop doing it.
You're going to make Kirstie Alley hate us.
She's not doing it. She literally could be on this show and people would be like, why is she on this show? That's how upset people are with Kirstie Alley. Yeah. The other one that was from Saved by the Bell, not the early years, the one that went against it, Leah Remini.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised she's not dead yet. Yeah. She did all that exposing Scientology and all that.
And it's still around, doesn't matter.
Well, I'd join if I could be in Mission Impossible.
You would join?
Have you seen those movies?
I have.
If I could get a speaking role, I'm not just going to be a waiter in it. I want to make sure before I sell my soul to another religion that I'm getting a real beefy part.
Do you want to be Ethan Hunt?
No. I don't want to run that much. It hurts my back to watch him run.
Do you want to be Ving Rhames?
I would love to. You know why? Because I want to say, we have the meat. Yeah. That's only 2 things he's known for. No, Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
You don't want to know why he was known for that movie. If you haven't seen it, don't Google that scene. Speaking of people that take it up the shorts, Dr. Fauci, this is part of those mandate issues. He and Rand Paul have had some fantastic exchanges the last few months. and Rand Paul he wants to introduce the Fauci Act, which I thought in the beginning was to remove Fauci. It is to get financial disclosures of the country's highest paid employee.
Right. All of the highest paid employees. I mean, I don't think it's just Fauci, but I think it's...
Right, but I mean, it literally would have his name on it for the next 200 years before the sun burns out and then this turns into a frozen wasteland.
I think, yeah, I mean, it would be great if that goes through. It'd be wonderful if that could.
I don't think it's going to go through, but it is a stick in the eye to somebody that, hey, we're going to name this bill about what an asshole you are.
It is, but I mean, I think you have a lot of there's a lot to overcome to get something like that passed. I think just a lot of there's a lot of corruption in DC.
What?
Yeah.
Did this just recently happen?
Yeah, it's been within the last 20 minutes.
Okay. I thought that is breaking news on this show. DC is corrupt.
But there's a lot of corruption in DC, and there's a lot of corruption in the government. And so you would be asking at least some people who are involved in all that to vote in favor of doing this thing that's actually going to potentially hurt them.
Right.
So I think he's going to have. I think Rand Paul's going to have a hard time.
I think he knows it's not
traction.
going to work out, but it makes a lot of headlines.
Well, Rand Paul's not stupid. He's not a dumb guy. He's a pretty smart guy.
But I do think it's funny that Fauci literally, because there will be people that only read the headline that will ask him, what do you think of that? And he'll have to explain, it didn't pass. It's not going to happen. But all he was doing was, you can do whatever you want, but I'm going to shit on your shingle on your way out. And at this point, Fauci can enjoy his money, he and Bill Gates and all these pharma bros. How is that Martin Scarelli? You know that guy? The guy that was selling the AIDS cocktail or whatever, and he kept jacking it?
Well, but wasn't, Fauci was in on that too, right?
Yes, he was.
For anybody who hasn't read it yet, Robert Kennedy Jr.'s book,
The Real Anthony Fauci,
is shocking and awesome all at the same time. And the thing about Robert Kennedy Jr.,
the third.
I mean, that's Junior.
I know, but we were talking about that earlier.
Oh, I see.
So I just want to keep.
Yes, I see. Okay, I get it. I get it. You're continuing the theme that nobody but you wants to continue.
It will never end. It's literally my favorite theme. Anyway, I interrupted you. So the only Kennedy that didn't have a bullet in his head.
The thing you gotta love. Bob, first of all, the book is exhaustive and it's well annotated. I mean, it's not like he makes a statement and doesn't provide support for statements. It's very well supported from public record. The second thing that folks need to understand is Robert Kennedy Jr. is not a Republican hack who's out to prove a political point. I mean, that's not what the book is an excellent book for folks to read. It's an excellent read.
It's funny that we talked about this because do you know who worked in 2005 on a big scoop to bring down Big Pharma and Pfizer and all that? You're never going to guess, so I'll just tell you. Jake Tapper worked hand in hand with Kennedy. Right. Because he was telling all the things that are in the Fauci book are also spelled out here, where he was trying to say, you don't understand what Big Pharma is trying to do. He wasn't talking about, this is 2005, so it's not a pandemic. It is, you have no idea the influence that they have in Washington and all that. Before the story is going to air, Big Pharma, Pfizer hits up CNN and says, if you run this, we're pulling all of our advertising. And that might sound like, oh, how much money is that? You're talking per quarter $300 million. Right? Because it's not just, it's any drug, whether to do in your pants, in your sinuses, any of that other stuff, they got it all. They're advertising so many things, which all have that thing. If you have a side effect within 3 seconds, call your doctor.
Right.
They don't care.
Don't you love the way they spin the side effects? I think the side effects parts of those commercials are worth their weight in gold.
If your eyes begin to bleed.
Remember the Wellbutrin commercial?
Yes.
And I like the fact that it has a low risk of sexual side effects. Oh, you like that, do you?
I have a leaky backside, but it doesn't hurt the front. But now you've probably seen this.
Here are 75 ways you might die from taking this drug. But, you get to wear a blue sweater.
I missed the bathtub one. You know what I mean? The couple on the side of the hill. Yeah. And then they changed that because
holding hands.
Yeah. And I'm like, he's cold in there. And then Mike Ditka was on there. And that's when I was like, oh my God, because Mike Ditka, as I'm getting older, I'm like, listen, Hammer, and I don't need to hear any more about this. Then it bothered me. But again, all these drugs that you're taking because it betters your life, there's a side effect to everything. And there's the abuse factor. I mean, this technically is a drug, drinking Monster, drinking coffee all day long. But I figure 6, 7 of these, I'm fine a day. But you're going to pay for it at some point. But these are the same people running ads that are telling you that this mask is effective, this vaccine works, all this. I want somebody to kind of step back and go, if this wasn't about money, would we be doing any of this?
Probably not. I mean, it's money and control. Control is money. Money is control. That's what it's all about mostly. I mean, and the funny thing is when rules are arbitrary, then they don't make any sense, right?
Right.
So like, so a guy I know who flies a lot. I'm going to say who, but a guy who I know who flies a lot. He has a mask that you pull up from the neck, right?
A gator.
So, yeah, a gator, that thing. And so he has one of those, and he was literally going through TSA, and they told him that he couldn't wear the gator. So he pulls a cloth mask of the same fabric out of his satchel and says, "Is this one okay?" "Yeah, that one's okay." Now there is absolutely zero difference between the one that goes around your ears and the one you pull up. These are exactly the same ineffective masks that we're wearing, but the rule is you can't use the gaiters. You have to use the other one. And from an effectiveness standpoint, neither of those things are doing anything for you except for stopping you from spitting on somebody else. I mean, that's literally the only thing that those are doing for you.
I like that we ended the show on a very high, we are pro mask.
Are we?
No, I'm just kidding. We haven't worn a mask on this show ever. Get out there,
Maybe
read that book, number 1. And number 2, don't forget the Fauci Act.
The Fauci Act.
That's it. We'll see you next week.